History often tells us that enslaved Africans were powerless, that they suffered in silence. But that's not the full story, because they fought back. In jungles, in mountains, on ships, and on plantations, enslaved Africans rose against impossible odds. They weren't just victims of oppression, they were warriors of freedom. Today on AfriFacts, we uncover the untold story of African slaves who refused to bow, who sparked revolutions, and who forever changed the world. The fire that sparked. Ships on the Atlantic, chained captives, the ocean at dawn. The transatlantic slave trade was one of the darkest chapters in human history. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, over 12 million Africans were stolen from their homeland, from kingdoms like Dahomey, Congo, Yoruba, and Ashanti, and forced into slavery across the Americas and the Caribbean. But from the very beginning, resistance was in their blood. On the slave ships, rebellions erupted. Captives fought with chains, tools, even teeth, anything they could use. Historians estimate that nearly 1 in 10 slave ships faced mutiny attempts. Most failed, but some succeeded, and those who escaped formed the earliest communities of freedom outside Africa. In the mountains of Jamaica, Cuba, Suriname, and Brazil, escaped slaves built entire societies known as Maroons. These were not small hideouts. They were kingdoms of the free. They built villages, trained warriors, and defended themselves against the colonial armies that came to crush them. One of the most legendary leaders was Queen Nanny of the Maroons, a fearless warrior woman from Ghana's Ashanti people. They say she could call on ancestral spirits for strength. She led guerrilla raids, rescued captives, and became a living symbol of resistance. Under her leadership, the Maroons fought the British Empire and won their independence. By 1739, the British were forced to sign a peace treaty, recognizing the Maroons' freedom. Imagine that. In the age of slavery, a group of Africans had defeated the most powerful empire on Earth and remained free. Far across the ocean, in Central Africa, a woman named Queen Nzambi Mpungu, sometimes linked to the resistance stories of the Congo, symbolized another form of rebellion. In regions under Portuguese control, African spiritual leaders and warriors resisted slave raids and Christian domination. The people rose under prophet-like figures, declaring they would no longer serve European masters or African kings who sold them. These were the Nzambi rebellions, where freedom was tied not just to the body, but to the spirit. Many of these uprisings were brutally crushed, but the spirit of defiance spread, crossing oceans with the enslaved themselves. And then came Haiti, the most powerful slave uprising in human history. In 1791, on the island of Saint-Domingue, enslaved Africans rose against their French masters. They were led by heroes like Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henri Christophe, men born in chains who became generals and statesmen. For more than a decade, they fought off not just the French, but also the Spanish and the British. They used African military strategies, spiritual unity through Vodun ceremonies, and unshakable courage. And in 1804, they achieved the impossible. They defeated Napoleon's army and declared independence. Haiti became the first free black republic and the second independent nation in the Western Hemisphere after the United States. That victory terrified colonial powers, because it proved one thing: African people could fight back and win. Rebellions that shook the Americas. In Brazil, the Malay Rebellion of 1835 saw African Muslims, enslaved Yorubas and Hausas, rise up in the streets of Salvador Bahia. In Cuba, the Aponte Rebellion of 1812, led by José Antonio Aponte, dreamed of a black kingdom free of slavery. And in the United States, revolts like Nat Turner's Rebellion and the Stono Rebellion echoed the same cry: freedom or death. These uprisings inspired abolitionists, frightened slave owners, and planted seeds that would eventually destroy the slave system itself. The story of slavery isn't just about pain, it's about power. Every rebellion, every escape, every act of resistance, from the ship decks of the Atlantic to the mountains of Jamaica, carried one message: Africans would not be broken. Their courage gave birth to nations. Their spirit inspired revolutions. And their blood watered the tree of freedom we stand under today. They weren't just victims, they were warriors, and their story is our story. If you believe Africa's history deserves to be told with pride, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with someone who needs to remember where we come from. This is AfriFacts, uncovering the power, pride, and legacy of Africa, one story at a time. AfriFacts, because our history matters.